Okay, I think we're going to get things started. Hello and welcome. I know that everyone's time is valuable, so I'll try and move things along as quickly as possible. During the presentation, you'll have an opportunity to submit questions, which with time allowing, I'll try and answer. You'll also have the opportunity to reach out to me directly afterwards to discuss any issues which may not have been addressed. Before we start, I want to thank the team at EQ Media that helped to organize this event. I'm hoping that after this presentation, which is around 15 minutes, you'll be better informed about the technology that Prisma has developed and how it addresses the serious shortcomings with the way horses are diagnosed and how Prisma's technology represents a new, better way to image horses. As you'll see shortly, our system represents the only technology that can access an equine patient's entire anatomy while they're conscious and weight-bearing, enabling the ability to safely perform CT and radiographic imaging without the use of anesthesia. Before we dive into the problem with current imaging and Prisma's solution, let's take a quick look at the benefits of Prisma's technology compared with current equine imaging. The patient is conscious and standing in a weight-bearing position. It avoids the risks of anesthesia and the patient being knocked out. There's higher patient throughput with fewer personnel, which means more revenue and lower operating costs. And it accommodates animals above the weight and dimensional capacity of conventional CT scanners. Lastly, our advanced imaging technology will provide access to currently inaccessible regions of the horse's anatomy. These capabilities represent a true game changer for horses' safety, performance, health, and welfare. The Prisma system has something for everyone. For the horse owner, better care, performance, and quality of life for their valuable loved animals. For the practitioner, a new category of expanded diagnostics, a way to increase the volume of services offered and higher revenue. And most importantly, the ability to visually demonstrate to their client how to deliver better patient care. For the competitive athlete and our equine companions, access to advanced imaging diagnostics that will proactively reduce the number of catastrophic injuries during training and competition, and an overall better, healthier quality of life. Now let's get down to brass tacks. Horses are prey animals, which means that instinctively they'll hide any signs of injury or distress. And unlike Mr. Ed, our four-legged friends can't tell us when they're hurt or need help. And most catastrophic fatal occurrences are caused by latent injuries or defects in the skeletal system that go undetected. As such, an efficient, effective way to discover these problems will reduce these tragedies and help save lives. So why do these shortcomings exist, and why is more not being done to treat and protect our beloved horses? To help answer these questions, let's take a look at the current state of equine imaging and then at Prisma's solution. You'll also get to meet Alf, a retired show jumper that was a true champion during the testing and development process. Current imaging technology has several limitations, and it's not well suited for horses. It requires the patient to be anesthetized, which is dangerous and potentially life-threatening for the horse and unsafe for medical personnel. It also necessitates a team to awkwardly position an unconscious 1,200-pound patient into a CT donut. Lastly, it can't image the high mass parts of the equine anatomy, which often leads to an incomplete or faulty diagnosis. In contrast, Prisma's technology is easy to implement and safe for both the horse and handler. The horse is walked into position and requires only mild sedation. Robotics provides unlimited access to virtually every anatomical region of a standing conscious horse, including the axial skeleton, hips, pelvis, and abdomen. Prisma's system utilizes two types of radiographic imaging technologies, which reveals the high mass areas of the equine anatomy and generates high resolution images that current image technology can't do. Also, in addition to robotics and dual radiograph technology, our system also employs an advanced motion correction system. At the end of the day, there are three essential capabilities for diagnostic quality CT images. These include image quality, and then of course, image quality. To demonstrate Prisma's image quality, CT images of an equine limb were taken with Prisma system and with two medical CT systems, a Samsung and a Toshiba. An analysis of the image quality by an equine radiologist and several equine vets concluded that Prisma's first light CT was on par with these established CT systems. However, with the Prisma system, the patient does not require to be anesthetized, a distinct advantage of the Prisma system and its clearly superior technology. Let's see what the experts have to say. In a recent survey conducted among equine veterinary professionals, there was a 100% positive consensus that radiographic and CT imaging is the go-to modality to proactively detect latent defects or injuries, and that a better means to image horses was needed. They also agreed that Prisma system would be a solution to the shortcomings in current equine imaging. Since its inception, Prisma has been in regular contact with several research universities, large equine veterinary practices, and major equine industry organizations, all of which are very supportive and enthusiastic about the technology we've developed and the benefits it will provide to the equine industry. We also have strong levels of interest and letters of intent from some of the most prestigious practices in the country that are excited about getting a system when they're commercially ready. Here's a snapshot of the competitive landscape. None of the attempts to build equine CT systems offers a comprehensive solution to image the entire anatomy, or worse, they make anesthesia necessary, which is potentially dangerous and life-threatening for the patient. The Samsung and Epica systems are essentially repurposed CT equipment from the human market. 4DDI had the right idea in using robots, but they never developed a working system, and they've been out of business since 2016. Tech, which also uses robots, has yet to produce diagnostic quality CT images and can't image the high mass parts of the horse, which is also a shortcoming of the Astro system as well. Prisma offers superior capabilities and other innovations between current radiographic imaging technology and these ventures. Let's look at some numbers. Prisma's business model is based on a three-segment sales strategy for the equine market: academic research institutions, large equine clinics, and company-developed and operated mobile imaging systems. The research systems will sell for $750,000, and we project a total of 12 systems being installed over the next 5 years. The large clinic systems will sell for $500,000 plus a per study fee from revenue generated from imaging studies. The return on investment, or ROI, for these systems is projected to be less than 12 months. And we forecast a total of 14 systems being installed over the next 5 years. The company-owned and operated mobile systems will be deployed to address demand in geographic locations in which fixed systems are not accessible and at equestrian events in which a large number of horses will be present. We project initially developing 24 systems over the next 5 years. As you'll see in the next slide, most of the income is coming from recurring revenue sources. This table and graph illustrate the results of Prisma's sales strategy, with the first revenue occurring in 2021, and that the majority is coming from recurring sources, specifically from image study fees and operating company-owned mobile systems. We're also projected to be profitable by year 3, which we'll achieve with the funds from our current equity raise and from internally generated income. Once operations are stabilized, net margins will be around 56%, and we have an R&D line item included in the expenses to support the development of future innovations. By year 5, we'll be achieving $40 million in revenue and growing from only servicing the US equine population of 7.2 million horses. Once operations are stabilized, international markets will be developed, tapping into the 50+ million horses outside of the US. Let's take a look at the size of the total addressable market, or TAM, for the equine industry. The obvious beneficiaries of Prisma's imaging technology will be horses that are in the competitive sector. In looking at these categories in the US, racing and showing, a consensus among trainers, horse owners, and vets revealed that a horse that is active in the racing sector, or approximately 200,000 horses, should be proactively imaged a minimum of 4 times a year. The determination of the appropriate number of scans was based on a horse's race schedule, training regimen, and medical history. Also taken into consideration was the advanced, safe, and efficient functionality of Prisma's system, especially since the horse does not need to be anesthetized, and Prisma's ability to image the axial skeleton. At, let's say, $800 per study, this equates to a TAM, or a total addressable market, of $640 million just for the racing category. For the showing category, active participants, which in the US is approximately 600,000, the consensus was that they should be proactively imaged a minimum of once a year. The determination for the frequency was arrived with a similar methodology as racing. At again, $800 per study, this equates to a total addressable market of $480 million for the showing category. Now, looking at the remaining 3.1 million recreational horses in the US, the worldwide equine population of 58 million horses, and based on a consensus from medical professionals, it's safe to say that a multi-billion-dollar market exists for Prisma's imaging technology. Now let's take a look at some other potential commercial applications beyond the equine industry. Technical advancements from initially operating within the equine industry will create opportunities that will pave the way for other applications. For example, other large animals in zoos and nature preserves, the cattle and food animal industry, and even in the human market to address the imaging challenges for the growing bariatric population. Behind the Prisma team is a group of passionate professionals who've been involved with Prisma since its inception. Each brings a valuable skill set and will play essential roles in the company as we transition from the developmental stage into a conventional commercial operation. About me. In addition to experience in a variety of industries and having started, built, and divested businesses in the past, the top of my resume should read problem solver. My experience has taught me how to identify a demand and then muster the resources to address that demand. Since Prisma's inception 4 years ago, we've achieved and documented significant milestones that have de-risked the technical and developmental aspects of the system. We've identified the correct resources in respective technical categories that have us on a clear, defined path to commercialization. We project having the first systems commercially ready by the end of 2021. And to paraphrase the quote on the slide by an industry expert in CT imaging software, we're in the home stretch on our way to the finish line. By the way, the video you're seeing is our latest prototype system, which operates with only one robot, a material improvement with numerous benefits compared to a true robot system. I hope I've demonstrated the need for and potential of Prisma's technology and the benefits it will bring to promote the safety, health, and welfare of our beloved horses and the continued success of the industry. I see we have a few questions. If I can't get to them now, we'll get back to you, or you can feel free to contact me in the future. I'm also hoping to hear from you so I can better explain how you can participate in helping to make this technology commercially available. Thank you. If who's on from EQ Media, if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Okay, here we go. Somebody asked, can you please show more examples of images of the axial skeleton? Yes, we do have those available. And if you reach out to me, I'll be able to get that. Another question, how long would a complete body scan take? Well, it really depends. I mean, realistically, you're probably going to, not do the entire, um, you know, the entire horse's anatomy at one time, but typically, one imaging study would take about 30 minutes. And that really is getting the horse prepared, sedated, and in and out. So it's probably about 30 minutes per imaging study. Somebody asked, how many patients a year do you need to be profitable? Well, again, we did do an analysis, and it really does depend on what the person providing the services are charging. Again, in our analysis, we estimated $800 per imaging study, which again, if you compare it to conventional CT, which can be in the thousands of dollars, we estimated that after about 9 months, the system will be paid for, and then the balance is obviously is pure profit. Okay, here's another question. What infrastructure exists for reading and diagnosing the imaging in large animals, since there really isn't much of a precedent? Well, that is a great question. There are equine radiologists, can obviously read the imaging and the CTs from the parts of the horse that can currently be imaged with current technology. What we envision is that as we get to other parts of the horse's anatomy, for example, parts of the axial skeleton, that there's going to be somewhat of a learning curve to that. But, anatomy is anatomy, and we're really not that concerned that that's going to represent that much of a challenge. Here's another one. Will you be able to do shoulders, elbows, and stifles? The answer is yes. With the types of radiography, we will be able to image every part of the horse's anatomy. Here's another question. Let's see. I have a horse with assumed post-surgical abdominal adhesions. When is as soon as I would be able to get an abdominal scan of my horse? Well, as we said in the presentation, we're hoping to have the systems commercially ready towards the end of 2021. And by the way, I get numerous questions like that. People that own horses, they don't want to subject them to being anesthetized and are very anxious to, for our technology to be commercially ready. I don't see that we have any more questions. Oh, I'm sorry, here we go. Where will it be available? Vet, office, clinic, private owner? Again, as I said in the presentation, we've got three sales channels. We're going to be selling them to research universities, obviously, to focus on clinical studies. We're going to be selling them to large equine veterinary practices, and I'm only saying that just because of the size and the cost of the system. You'd want to have a certain caseload to justify the cost. And then we're also developing mobile systems that'll be deployed, as I said, in geographic regions where fixed systems don't exist, and at large equine and equestrian events. Here's another question. Will my horse need to be sedated? That's a great question. It really depends on the temperament of the horse, and the reason why we do suggest sedation, it's not necessarily how the horse will react to the robotics, which again was one of the first things that we tested to make sure that they wouldn't get spooked, and they really didn't mind at all. The reason why we do sedation is the more still a horse can stand during the imaging, the better and easier it is. And what we found is when we didn't use sedation, the horse is very curious and looking around a lot. So yeah, the answer is, and just like with lots of medical procedures, a mild sedation is recommended. Okay, let's see. How big of a space do you need? Well, as you saw in the last slide, we've modified the design so that it only requires one robot. And we could fit that in approximately a 15 by 20 space, length times width, with 12-foot high ceilings. And then obviously you'd want to have a egress, for the horse to get in and out. So it can fit, excuse me, it can fit in a relatively compact space, especially compared to some of the other systems out there that we also went through. Let's see. How much will it cost the horse owner? Well, that's really going to be up to the vet. We did conduct a survey among equine veterinarians, and we not only asked them what they charge for CTs, but what they would think appropriate pricing would be for our system. And obviously it was considerably lower because you don't have to deal with anesthetizing the patient, which is a big part of the cost. You don't need as many personnel. So again, in our analysis, we very conservatively estimated $800 per study. But in the answers we got back, the pricing ranged anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. But I think because of the simplicity, ease of use, the avoidance of anesthesia, the frequency is going to be significantly higher than with current technology. But again, that's going to be something that's going to be up to the individual practice that owns the system. Okay, what types of damage or illness can it diagnose? Well, I think the answer to that is, if you think about when you go, if you have an orthopedic issue and you get a CT, it's going to, detect the same types of potential ailments. It's radiographic imaging, CT imaging, as well as, again, what's really unique is, as we've already said, the horse is conscious, they don't need to be anesthetized. But then you're going to, essentially being able to do the same type of diagnostics that you would through CT imaging and radiographic imaging. Again, we'll be able to see the horse's axial skeleton, which you currently can't do. Be able to see the abdomen, which is going to be really remarkable when you consider, when a horse is potentially colic and, you have to kind of take a guess at whether you should cut them open or not. Since our system will be able to do radiographic imaging of a horse's abdomen, we should be able to make that determination to know whether you better go in there and fix it, or whether you don't have to cut the horse open. Let's see, here's another question. How long does it take? Do I have to take my horse to it, or will it come to my horse? Okay, again, we're projecting that there'll be about 14 large equine practices and 12 universities that will have fixed systems. And then we're going to be deploying 24 mobile systems. So I guess depending on where you're located, if it's convenient for you to get to one of the practices that's going to have one of our systems, then I guess you would go to them. If not, again, these mobile systems are going to be covering parts of the country, as I said before, that don't have access to a fixed system. Let's see. How close are you to having a CR model working? Well, if you saw, we've got it working mechanically, and actually the next phase of development is getting the radiation equipment set up, which is going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. And what we're hoping to have, probably before the end of the year is, actual images done with this, with the new one robot C-arm system. Okay. So this technology is CT or a variation of that. How may it image an abdomen? How does the image compare to MRI? Okay, well, yes, it is CT, which is computed tomography, which is essentially, again, if people know this and I'm explaining it, I apologize, but basically what it's doing is it's taking, typically a couple of hundred images of an area of interest, and then the real magic is in the reconstruction of those images, which create a volumetric image of what of the part of the body that you wanted to see. And what that essentially does is gives you the ability to look inside as opposed to conventional radiography. And then in terms of for the abdomen, the initial systems are what's really powerful about technology of what we've developed is the fact that it can get through such massive part of the horse. And those are going to be conventional two-dimensional radiography. In terms of MRI, that's a completely different type of technology, and typically applied more when there's potential issues with soft tissue or ligaments. However, we are very confident in the CT software that we've developed is that it will be able to get very, very good quality resolution CT of soft tissue, meaning it might not necessarily necessitate the need to do an MRI, depending on what the ailment of the horse might be. Tell me more about the motion correction. That's really one of the most exciting things about the technology that we've developed. It really is going to serve two functions. In one way, the horse is let in, which you saw in the video. The horse is going to be put in a general place. It doesn't have to be in a precise location, just in a general area. So the motion correction can identify where that is, and then it positions the robot accordingly based on where the horse is physically located. During image acquisition, again, since the horse is conscious, there is going to be some movement, whether it's swaying or what have you. Obviously, if the horse, starts walking away or something, there's safety things built in that the system stops and you just kind of start over again. But that motion that occurs during the image acquisition, which can take anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds, the motion correction actually can monitor the precise location of the part of the horse's anatomy that's being imaged. It then takes that data and it integrates it with the CT reconstruction software. We did extensive study on it. It works tremendously well, and really what makes it possible for our system to be able to image a standing conscious horse. Let's see. Will it work as well on diagnosing soft tissue and bone tissue in the legs, or is it more focused on the midsection? Well, I think the way I'd answer that is, statistically, most issues with horses are going to be in the distal limbs in the legs. So that's probably where it's going to be used, for the most part. And then there's also lots of issues in the head. And so it's going to be used extensively for that. As far as the high mass parts of the horse, the axial skeleton or what have you, that's really uncharted territory for new technology. And what we're really excited about is that since we've proven that we can get through, 24 to 30 inches of horse, that there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to discover in that. And that's, again, one of the reasons why, we want to have some of these systems at some of the research universities. And the analogy I like to bring up is when Marconi figured out what radio waves were, the radio wasn't invented yet. And I think that there's going to be, similar occurrences as we're able to get a clear picture of the high mass parts of the horse, which you currently can't do, that a whole slew of treatments and diagnosis are going to come as a result of that. Oh, here, let's see. Is there opportunity to invest or partner? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Just briefly, I've been funding the business up to this point. I've got about $1 million of my own money invested in it. And I did mention in the presentation that we are doing a current equity raise. So yeah, absolutely, there is an opportunity to invest. We've got full financials that I'd love to share and discuss that opportunity. And another point that I wanted to make, and is why I included that last quote in the last slide, is that the experts and the scientists that have been helping during the development process and what we've been able to achieve and document, it's just time and money at this point, meaning we've taken out the innovation risks, the development risks, and it's really just now executing. We've got all the system architecture in place. And as I said before, it's really just time and money. So yeah, there's definitely, we're actively out raising money now. So I'd love to have that conversation. Okay, you know what? I think that's it, and I think we're out of time. But in any case, I just wanted to thank everybody again. And if you look on the last slide, there's my contact information, or you can go to our website, prismaimaging.com, and I'm very accessible. So in any case, if, as I said before, if there's any things that I either missed or I spoke too fast, or that you've got further questions, I really do encourage you to reach out, and I'd be glad to, to answer any questions and, continue whatever dialogue that maybe we weren't able to get through during this presentation. Oh, and just one last thing. This was recorded, and if anybody missed it, how will somebody be able to get access to that? Oh, it'll be on the Prisma website, which again is just prismaimaging.com. So in any case, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this and hope that I was able to, impart, the exciting technology that we've developed and as much information as possible in this brief amount of time.